Hello and welcome. You're with Jason Ott, owner of Empowered Prevention. And today on Let's Talk About It, we are going to get a little deep and a little heavy, but this story and this topic on cancer, it resonates with me because my mother recently actually just passed from cancer after, she died from the effects of going through the amount of treatment and things to put her brain cancer into remission well over a decade ago, and slowly that decline of her body led to her death. And this message is a little heavy, I understand that, but right now 1 in 2 people my generation or lower, so 30s or lower, will have cancer. And right now I think just about everybody in their immediate family has somebody that either has cancer or has been diagnosed with cancer. But this is a message that I would give you if you were just diagnosed. This is from everything that I've learned over the last 20 years since my mother was diagnosed with cancer, all the things we went through, all the things that I've learned, and then the last 10, 11 years that I've actually been in the professional health field, working mainly in health services as it relates to personal training, health coaching. Now I'm very big into helping people understand nutrition and lifestyle change as it relates to healing and reversing their disease. And this would be the part that I would share with you is if I could give my mom the advice that I know now. By the time I knew the things that I know now, it was well past that point. And I think that this conversation, it's a hard conversation to have with people you love. It's a very hard conversation to have when you've been diagnosed with cancer because it's scary. And a lot of the talk about cancer is what AIDS used to be. If you go back into the 80s and 90s, when people were diagnosed with AIDS or HIV, it was a death sentence. The fear around that topic, literally the mortality rate was through the roof. Now in 2019, you don't hear a lot about it. Yeah, you hear about impoverished countries not getting the treatment and the help, but we've been able to stop that. Okay, we've lowered that fear rate on HIV or AIDS, but in today's age, that's cancer. There's certain cancers that are more aggressive. There's certain cancers that if you catch them early enough with conventional treatment, you can get help. But there are tons of metastatic cancers right now that are wreaking havoc on family. So what I want to share with you is the things that I wish I could have shared with my mother when she was healthy enough to make these decisions on nutrition and lifestyle change and what I've learned. So the advice that I would give you if you've been diagnosed with cancer is to take a deep breath first and foremost, that you do not need to rush into chemotherapy and radiation treatment. With the doctors I've worked with the people that I've worked with who have cancer and have went through conventional and holistic treatment, usually both at the same time, that is a huge message I want to give you, is why are we only going after this disease with one layer of help when we should be, especially with something like that? I think with every disease we need multiple layers to help heal our body, to help heal our mind. We need to attack it from multiple angles. But with cancer, it seems like most people, especially in the Midwest, think there's only one route. And I think that's where I want to start, is there isn't one route. And we need to be empowered to understand that there are multiple ways to kill and destroy cancer. And cancer cells will die. It's just important to understand what we need to do. I'm going to start by giving you an example of a woman that I worked with who she had cancer. She had breast cancer, and she was somebody who understands this layered approach. She was in the health field herself, specifically into the personal training. So she understood the power of exercise, the power of diet, and the power of lifestyle. So her story starts with just this. She was diagnosed with the breast cancer, and she was going to have to go through treatment. And due to the fact that she was changing her diet, she was still exercising, and she had tremendous emotional support through her family, she only had to do half of the treatments that she initially was gave. I give the credit because she changed how she was eating. She did more juicing, she did more smoothies, she put some supplements in her diet. She also made sure that she was exercising and getting oxygen in the blood. Oxygen destroys cancer cells. O3 treatments work tremendously well in helping to destroy cancer. And so using that with her chemo and targeted radiation, she was actually able to not have to do as much treatment, which is amazing because that's what my mom passed away from. The Mayo Clinic in Minnesota told my mother, they said, look, after the fact, she went through it. She got her brain surgery. She was good. She tried to resume a normal life. Her body started to fail. She eventually had to go on disability and couldn't work anymore. So when we took her to the Mayo Clinic, they said, listen, you did beat cancer, but the extensive amount of radiation and chemo we had to give you is the reason your body is failing. So for me, that's the first part of my advice is we have to minimize the effects of that type of treatment. Some people don't even do that treatment altogether, and that's another topic and another conversation. But I think it's absolutely imperative for the long-term health and the longevity of you and the quality of your life that you need to understand right now that you need to do all the layers. You have to. Now, you could roll the dice and take your chances. That's what we did with my mother. And back in the late 90s or mid-90s, there was definitely no other route then. People didn't talk about it. Chemo and radiation was very aggressive then. And so the Mayo Clinic, they gave her the right diagnosis. The problem with that to me is we never explored a single other option ever. There was no second opinion. The doctors I've worked with, a good physician will actually tell you to get a second opinion. They're not going to just fear you into saying you need to do this now. They will say, please explore options. This would be another oncologist maybe I would talk to. This would be another facility I'd check out. These are some resources. Educate yourself, because if they're really in it for you, that should be the protocol. Yes, there is a certain level of urgency. You have cancer. I understand that. I work with clients who have cancer. I went through it with my mother. I get that. But it is important, just like anything in life, that we slow down, we try to understand it, we get some professionals around us, and that we look at this not from a siloed mindset that there's only one way out, because there isn't. And if this information is new to you, I understand. Not a lot of people know what I'm about to tell you. But that's the point of let's talk about it. We are going to talk about things that are not mainstream, that unless you do this for a living, which I do all day, every day, you're not going to know about this, and that's okay. It's nothing to beat yourself up about, but you're just not going to know it because you don't study it. I'm not going to know more than the mechanic fixing my car because all day, every day, all I'm reading is health information. The only people that I'm working with are going to be health coaching or some sort of personal training or corrective exercise, rebuilding their body, whatever it is. My conversations on a daily basis are going to be with different health professionals and my clients working to resolve and identify the root cause of whatever condition they have. Okay? I'm reading nutrition books. That's what I read. I'm reading emotional healing books. That's all I surround myself with. So it is very normal to not understand the complexity of specialized industry. And that's okay. That's what I'm hoping to bridge the gap with. So first and foremost, we got to understand that there's multiple layers. Even if it means, I'm not saying we need to do Western medicine or not, or you can only do holistic or not. That's not my call. That is a personal decision that you need to make. What I am saying is this: when you layer your treatment, the amount of antioxidants, the amount of vitamins, the amount of minerals, the amount of phytochemicals that come into your body by eating a high amount of fresh fruits and vegetables, by juicing, by doing fruit and vegetable smoothies, by putting things like barley grass juice powder and spirulina, and eating these foods every single day while you're going through treatment, you will minimize the side effects of what's coming into your body, because everybody knows chemo and radiation, they're harmful and they kill cancer cells, but they'll kill healthy cells. So when we're regenerating, our cells need all those nutrients, okay? They need more of those nutrients than they do proteins and fats and carbohydrates. Yes, you need to eat enough. As long as the treatment isn't making you sick, you need to eat enough so you get enough energy in so you're not losing all your weight, but you need these micronutrients, and not a lot of people understand and know about these things, as well as the foods that boost your immune system come from fruits, vegetables, herbs, and spices. So if you're fighting any disease on this planet, Eating a high amount, 8, 10, 12, 15 servings a day, whether you're doing that through juices, smoothies, whatever it is incredibly intelligent to do. It's not about how much protein you get. Protein doesn't boost your immune system. Having a whey protein shake or whatever protein shake you want, not going to be the best and most effective way to help your disease when you're trying to reverse or stop the effects or boost the immune system. It's just not, okay? That's not why they're in our diet. Fruits and vegetables are, okay? I've worked with people that have went to specialized clinics, right? And they do more natural healing. So there's a great documentary called Cancer Can Be Killed. That is a tremendous resource. If you check that out, you will see doctors talking about the different practices in the United States and out of the United States. My personal experience, I've worked with multiple people who have went into these specialized facilities. They come back and they tell me the exact same thing. Hey, Jason, guess what? We had to send my test results out of the country because it's illegal in America. Really? Well, that's a natural thing. I'm surprised that we can't test that. Yep, well, it's illegal. I don't know why, but they sent them out. These are the type of therapies. They're not saying I can't do immunotherapy. They're not saying I can't do radiation or chemo. They're just saying if you're going to do those, why don't we get you on some vitamin drips? Because cancer cells hate vitamin C. Why don't we get you on O3 treatments? Because cancer cells hate oxygen. Dr. Otto Warburg back in the 40s proved that when you have a high amount of oxygen present within and around the cells, it will destroy cancer cells. So bringing in oxygen-rich foods, fruits, vegetables, herbs, spices, while giving yourself oxygen or O3 treatment, which you can get at any hospital, while doing that, that is going to dramatically improve your results when you're trying to heal from a disease. Especially something as aggressive and fatal as cancer can be if we don't understand exactly what that is. So I think that when you start to layer and you think about this is you have options. And I don't think my mother definitely didn't get that vibe. And I don't think most of the clients and people I meet get that, and that's why people seek me out, because I've spent time learning this, so I have resources that give you options. And when you know you have options, you have more hope. And when you have more hope, you start to get more belief that you will get your life back and you will heal. And when you start to go down that route and you start to believe and you start to see, you start to meet people who have overcome stage 4 cancer. I have met people who have done that. I have met people who have done that and they never touched a drop of chemo and radiation. And it's important that you understand that so you know it's possible. It's super important because if you don't think you can recover and you only think you're going to get sicker, what do you think the long-term diagnosis of you is going to be? What do you think it's going to be? So understanding you have these choices is extremely important to that. Now, the second part of this, so all of those, you got to understand you have options, okay? So if you've been diagnosed, there are multiple ways to go about this, all right? And I, like I said multiple times in this already, we need to layer the approach. But then we need to start looking over and wondering outside of that, what can we do to also boost our results? Well, let's sit and think here for a second. What could we do? Are there other practices? Where do we got to go? And I think that when you look at Charlene Bollinger, I believe is the name, her and her husband have established a massive network of over 500,000 people in it. If you look them up, Charlene, like I'm saying Char, Charlene, I believe, Bollinger, like Bollinger, I believe. If you look them up, they have a massive network, and they've dedicated their life to cancer research, okay? The reason I'm bringing this up is because it's important to find people who understand what you're going through. It's important to understand people who want to resolve this and eradicate this. So you got a resource like Cancer Can Be Killed. You find a network of 500,000 people who understand the global epidemic of cancer, because what's going on in America and the cancer rates in America are not the same as they are around the entire world. So yes, treatment is one thing, but understanding the global epidemic of cancer really helps you to put into perspective and understand environmental toxicity, heavy metal toxicity, damaged immune system, how terrible the standard American diet actually is for you, and why America has higher cancer rates than anywhere in the world. There's reasons for that, guys. And when you start to realize that in America, the way we live and the things that we are exposed to on a day-to-day basis increase our cancer risk more than anywhere in the world, you can start to look at other cultures and adopt their lifestyle. This is extremely empowering, because then you see that cancer is not a death sentence. It absolutely is not. I don't care what stage of cancer you have. Specifically right now, I have somebody that had cancer in their bones, and they have far exceeded the duration that they were supposed to, taking a layered approach as far as they were told they were going to be dead months ago, and they're not. So when you start looking around the world and you look into the Bollingers and their work and their network, and then you look into things like Ayurveda medicine, and then you look into things like, if you've heard of Gerson therapy, and you look into these things. Now, I don't agree with everything in Gerson therapy, but the foundation of it, of saturating the body with high amounts of fruits and vegetables throughout the entire day, so you're constantly bathing your body in immune boosting and cancer killing nutrients, that really helps. And I've had people use that with great success. So when you start looking around the world, then you start to see epigenetic factors. Okay, and so what I mean by that, epigenetics is in the environmental's impact, or environment's impact on an organism. So not just humans, but all organisms, and how we change and adapt due to that. So when we look around the world and we see, okay, America has different statistics on cancer than other places in the world. Okay, we see that Europe treats cancer more holistically and differently with a nice high success rate compared to America. All right, why do they do that? And you start to see, okay, maybe I need to take what I'm being told with a little bit of a grain of salt. I mean, not everything. I'm not telling you not to follow your doctor's advice, but I'm saying they don't know everything. I don't know everything. It's important that you look outside that box, all right? So when we start to do that, you start to see that there are things we can do. There are epigenetic changes. There are lifestyle changes you can make right now from the point of being diagnosed to get more control back and begin healing your body, okay? Because old cells die off constantly. As you're listening to this right now, I have cells dying in my body, and they will leave my body. Depending on what I ate today determines what kind of new cells are going to come in. If I drank a bunch of pop, if I ate, the standard American diet, a bunch of acidic food, if I ate some processed foods, that's exactly what type of cells will grow in my body. Sick, weakened cells, because I didn't actually put nutritious foods in my body. So when you look at these cultures around the world that they eat higher plant-based foods, they eat more of these. They don't eat foods from packages. They're not drinking pop. They're not getting drunk all the time. And they have a lot more herbs and spices. When you study the blue zones of the world, a lot more of these things. So when you look at that, you're like, okay, I'm going to start going that way. I'm going to start going that way because it's going to help me. It gives you a hopeful feeling, and you need that. You don't ever want to go down the route of thinking that things aren't going to get good or get better. Get good. How's that sound? So when you do that, that's very helpful, because then you see twin studies. Genetically, this is another big thing with cancer. Oh, it's genetic. It's genetic. Dr. Gregor, How Not to Die, get that book. Read that book. He debunks that genetic thing, and he relates nutrition back to these factors, especially with breast cancer. It's just not a genetic factor. When we take twin studies, and identical twins, identically genetic, one moves away, goes to a different country or into a different city. They start eating different foods. They might exercise, they might not. They might get involved in things. They might work at a factory or work somewhere where they get exposed to environmental toxins. Fast forward 40, 50, 60 years later, one of the twins is diagnosed with cancer. The other one isn't. The one with cancer gets told that's a genetic cancer. And they go, Doc, I'm an identical twin. How come my twin doesn't have it? Crickets. So when you look at twin studies, which we have hundreds and hundreds of twin studies, identical twins, and each twin is getting different diseases, it's not genetic, okay? Genetic accounts for 10, 12, max 15% of diseases. Genetics loads the gun, lifestyle pulls the trigger. Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn stated that. So when we look at that, we start to realize that how we live, the thoughts we think, the foods we eat, whether we exercise or not, what we're exposed to over our lifetime, they all matter. It's called epigenetics or epidemiology, okay? Check into that. When we look at immigration studies, the same thing, this whole genetic thing. I'm not a big believer in that at all. I think there are genetic mutations, but I don't think genetics determines your health outcome at all. At all, because I've had so many people come to me and tell me, Jason, my autoimmune condition's genetic. Jason, this is genetic. I got it from my parents. Jason, blah, blah, blah. And then 6, 8, 12 months later, they don't have the condition anymore. So I'm going, really? Was it genetic? That's a belief system that Western medicine and conventional medicine was founded on. That was an Isaac Newton idea, okay, that everything was solid matter. But then we had this guy named Einstein that came around, and then he realized that there's more to it, like the quantum field, the energetic field, what impacts organisms to change. We just never changed our belief on that. So the immigration studies, you have a genetic bloodline that stays in China or stays in South America, and someone moves to North America and they start a family, and that family starts to get type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, but the family back in their native land does not have that. When you start looking at this type of research and you start expanding across the globe, you start to see that what is going on in America is not necessarily going on in the rest of the world. And for me, it raised one question: why? And the more I started asking that question, and the more I started researching and looking into the answers to that question, is exactly when I started finding what I call the truth, and that there are things publicized to us and fed to us that shouldn't be. And my best example I can give you is it is illegal to market pharmaceutical drugs across the ocean. So when you step over into Europe, into over that side, they're not marketing pharmaceutical drugs on television. They do all day long here in America. There's differences in our laws, there's differences in our standards, and there's differences in our treatments. I am not saying to go against your doctor's advice here in America. What I'm saying is be vigilant. Understand the complexity of our health and understand the power of the human body, and that it will regenerate if you put it into the right conditions. There is such thing, I'll end this video with this. There is such thing as being too far gone. There is. And your body can only take so much, okay? And it can only go so far, and then it's not coming back. It's not regenerating. I do respect that, and I do understand that. That is why I said if you've been diagnosed recently or any time before this, if you're preventing, get control of what you need to. Please, guys, if you need any more clarification on this topic, email me, jason@empoweredprevention. Follow along on all of our handles @empoweredprevention. Reach out to me. I can put you in touch with the resources you need. I can help you along with this. It's important that we work with our doctors and you get a good physician, and then you understand your nutrition, your exercise, your psychology, your emotional health, your spiritual health, and you understand this mind, body, soul connection. And when you do, when I help you understand that, that's when healing happens. That's when you come in touch with your higher self. That's when you start to get your life back and you realize that God is good, whether you believe in it or not. But we are designed to heal out here, all right? I'll talk to you guys later. Thank you for joining me.